How about this for a headline? Israel's prime minister is lobbying in Washington to block fighter jet sales to Turkey. And it's not just about planes, it's about reshaping the Middle East.
That's a big one. And it's not every day you see a foreign leader taking such a public stance on U.S. policy.
Welcome to DeActa Daily Digest. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Juniper. Here are today's top stories.
Let's start with this fascinating story about Benjamin Netanyahu's campaign in the U.S. He's trying to block the sale of F-35 fighter jets to Turkey, and he's not being subtle about it. He's going on American TV, lobbying Congress, and even aligning with U.S. interest groups to make his case.
It's a bold move, especially since it involves publicly challenging U.S. policy. Netanyahu is arguing that Turkey's growing military power, combined with their regional ambitions, could destabilize the Middle East if they get access to these advanced jets.
And he's not wrong to be concerned. Turkey's defense industry is expanding rapidly. They're producing drones, naval platforms, and even working on their own fighter jets. Add to that their military presence in Syria and influence in Gaza, and you've got a country that's clearly aiming for a bigger role in the region.
What's really interesting is how Netanyahu is framing Turkey as the new regional threat, especially as Iran's influence appears to be waning. He's essentially saying, look, we've been focused on Iran for years, but now Turkey is the one to watch.
And it's not just Israel that's worried. Countries like Greece, Cyprus, and Armenia have their own issues with Turkey, from territorial disputes to historical grievances. Netanyahu is tapping into those concerns to build a coalition of opposition in Washington.
That's a smart strategy. By aligning with groups like the Greek American and Armenian American communities, Netanyahu is broadening the base of opposition to the F-35 sale. Recognizing the Armenian genocide, for example, was a calculated move to win support from Armenian advocacy groups.
It's also worth noting that Congress has already taken steps to block Turkey from receiving F-35s after they bought the Russian S-400 air defense system. But Netanyahu seems to be pushing for even stronger measures to ensure Turkey doesn't gain access to similar technologies in the future.
And then there's the Trump factor. President Trump has expressed admiration for Erdogan in the past, which complicates things. While he hasn't made a final decision on the F-35 sale, his personal relationship with Erdogan could influence the outcome.
It's a complex situation, and it raises some big questions about the future of the Middle East. If Iran's influence is truly declining and Turkey is stepping up, how does that reshape the region's power dynamics? And how does Israel adapt to this new reality?
Those are questions we'll be grappling with for years to come. But for now, let's move on to our second story. Iran's warning of retaliation for recent infrastructure strikes.
This one is tense. Iran is essentially saying, if you attack our infrastructure, we'll hit back and Israel won't be off limits. That's a pretty direct and ominous warning.
And it comes amidst a series of escalating tensions. The U.S. has carried out airstrikes on Iranian infrastructure, reportedly in response to attacks on commercial vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran, in turn, has launched missile and drone strikes on U.S. bases in the region.
It's a dangerous game of tit for tat, and the stakes couldn't be higher. What's particularly interesting is the timing. These strikes are happening just as Tehran and Washington are supposed to be entering talks under a new memorandum of understanding.
It's almost like both sides are trying to strengthen their negotiating positions before sitting down at the table. But it's a risky strategy. One wrong move, and this could escalate into a much larger conflict.
And then there's the question of Israel's role in all this. Iran's warning explicitly mentions Israeli targets, which adds another layer of complexity. How does Israel respond to being dragged into this?
That's a tough one. Israel has always been a key player in the region, and any escalation involving them could have far-reaching consequences. It's a delicate balancing act for everyone involved.
It really is. And it makes you wonder how these ongoing tensions will affect the broader geopolitical landscape. Will it push countries closer to the negotiating table, or will it drive them further apart?
Only time will tell. But for now, let's shift gears to something a little less fraught. Our third story about Texas Christian University launching an expert directory for World Cup reporting.
This is such a refreshing change of pace. TCU's initiative is a great example of how universities can play a role in shaping public discourse, especially around something as globally significant as the World Cup.
Absolutely. The idea of creating a centralized hub for journalists to connect with faculty experts is brilliant. It not only helps reporters provide more nuanced coverage, but it also highlights the depth of scholarship at TCU.
And it's not just about sports. The directory includes experts in economics, communication, psychology, public health, and more. It's about providing a holistic view of the World Cup's impact, both on and off the field.
Right. It's a reminder that events like the World Cup are about so much more than just the matches. They're about economics, tourism, media, fan behavior, and even public safety. There are so many layers to explore,
And having access to experts who can provide context and insight is invaluable. It elevates the quality of reporting and helps the public understand the broader implications of these events.
it's also a smart move for TCU. By positioning themselves as a resource for journalists, they're not just supporting better reporting, they're also raising the profile of their faculty and their institution. And
It's a win-win, and it's a great example of how universities can engage with the world beyond academia. They're not just ivory towers, they're active participants in global conversations.
exactly, and it's a nice way to end today's discussion. From high stakes diplomacy to the cultural impact of sports, we've covered a lot of ground.
We really have. And it just goes to show how interconnected everything is, whether it's geopolitics or the World Cup. These stories all reflect the complexities of our world.
They do, and they remind us that there's always more to the story than meets the eye.